homesteaders, we are ready to unveil our surprise that we've been gearing up towards. And I wanted to share a little bit of the logic behind what we were thinking in prepping for this and deciding the decision we needed to go. We've got a lot of things that we need to accomplish over the next couple years, things that are going to be piecemealed together, kind of choreographed in regards to when they need to be done and in what order and how easily and all those kind of things. And what it came down to was we need to do a lot of things that require machinery. I suppose it could be done by hand, but I am disinclined to throw my back out trying to dig trenches and move rocks and level driveways and the plethora of other things that need to happen. So we started debating whether we wanted to continue renting machinery like we did last summer when we did our initial excavations, or did we want to make an investment for our future and purchase a utility tractor. And so that's kind of where we came from. And we debated back and forth and made lists. We had the kind of epiphany that we have spare time on our hands, and being able to utilize a utility tractor would be efficient from a standpoint of I can go out, I've got 2 or 3 hours, I can go out and I can do some things with the utility tractor. The flip side is that shy of getting a huge machine that costs $100,000, any utility tractor we get is going to be underpowered compared to what we could rent. So there is that drawback. I could get a lot more done by renting a piece of machinery in a short amount of time. So if I rented it for the weekend or just a day or something like that, I could get a lot more done in a short amount of time with that big machine, albeit with less control. I mean, I've seen some phenomenal operators of machinery that can do precision work with their giant machines, and I'm not that person. I just don't have that kind of experience. But so having a smaller machine is kind of an advantage. Cost-wise, originally we were looking at it going, man, that's a massive amount of money. It's like another car payment if we go out and buy a tractor. And so but then we started looking at how many times we're going to have to rent machinery in order just to get the necessity type of things done, let alone fine-tuning, landscaping, dealing with gardens and orchards later, all the trees and stuff throughout the property. And so once we started factoring in that we would have to save that much money per month just to do the rentals we wanted to do, it started to bring things into a little more focus. So it kind of came down to a thing of, so what are the pros and cons? Can we get things done by renting? And overall cost. One of the things that was a definite consideration is when you rent something, you're not really responsible for the general upkeep of the machine. They do all the oil, they do all that type of stuff. You're responsible for the fuel. You have to fill it up when you're done and as you're using it. But the normal oils, if something breaks, do you have to replace the piston or whatever happens to break? You know, those type of things fall on the rental place in order to keep their machine running. So that would be a cost advantage from a standpoint of renting as opposed to buying. And definitely staying on top of things like owning a car, staying on top of the maintenance prevents long-term wear and tear. And so knowing that I'm taking care of my machine kind of mitigates that cost a little bit. But so the cost of everything seems to be an even wash back and forth in regards to renting as opposed to buying. But the sheer convenience of being able to do things at my own time, my own pace, my own speed, definitely has its advantages and its appeal to me. So, and that's just from moving dirt perspective. That doesn't even take into consideration some of the other things like last winter we were utilizing those push snow scoops you may have seen in one of my previous videos. We had 2 of those, and they're really efficient from a standpoint of in comparison to a snow shovel, but it's still a lot of effort, and we're not spry young chickens anymore. So that's one of the things that Tara was talking about in regards to the cost type stuff, because even if we rent things, we're still going to need to have some means of mechanical movement of snow come winter, because we basically came to the conclusion, whether it's a snow plow for the front of the truck, getting an ATV with a smaller plow on the front of it, or whatever route we went, we would still need to buy something for moving snow this coming winter and future winters. So between the snow, between the dirt, between the trees, the long-term plans of having like an orchard and a huge garden and stuff like that, we knew we wanted to get a tractor eventually, but it kind of came down to a thing of sooner is probably better than later, because we're going to be spending the money anyways. And then it came down to a decision of what size of a tractor do we need, and that's when I started reaching out to friends, coworkers, and stuff like that who have tractors or have owned tractors, and trying to decide which type of tractor we wanted, both brand and size. And I did a lot of online reviews in regards to the various brands, and what was a common theme in regards to a lot of those reviews is to have a dealer that is fairly close to you, that has been holding that particular brand for a while. So if it's a brand new lineup that they're recently bringing into an area, you may run into a thing if they decide they don't want to keep it after a couple years. And there's a definite advantage to having, whether it's John Deere or Kubota or Coyote or an LS or Branson, whatever, having that dealer near you, because if you have to drive a long distance in order to get parts, or bring the tractor in for servicing, or they have to come to you, all those miles add up. And so yeah, choose a dealer that had a brand, a reliable brand that they've been holding for a while, because you know they're going to keep it for a while. And then what is that dealer's reputation? And so we had several local dealers within probably about 25 or 30 miles, and I kind of looked at their brands and narrowed it down. And there's a couple of them that I didn't necessarily want, just because they were the cheaper models, the off-brand type of model that didn't necessarily have the best reviews in regards to customer service and or parts and or whatever. So several extra $1,000 for the Levi brand of the tractor world was a draw, because I'd rather spend a little extra money up front and know that I can get parts, and that I can have the service, and I can have the customer service and the follow through in regards to all that. So what we ended up doing was we bought a tractor, and we've been waiting for it to come in because it had to be delivered to the dealership. It's that time of the year when they're just rolling off the lot. So they didn't have the one that I particularly wanted. I ended up going with one that was a little bit bigger than what I wanted long term, but that was a nice compromise for what we're doing now, because we're going to use it a lot over the next couple years as we're working through phase 1, then 2, then phase 3 of our building process and developing process out here. And then after that, it's going to be primarily used with gardening and in the orchards and whatnot. So it was a nice compromise to go a little bit bigger now, as opposed to not being able to get things done, or have to, it's not much better than doing it by hand. So anyways, let's unveil the toy. surprise that we've been planning, that we've been waiting for. We've explained some of the reasons that we decided to go ahead and get a tractor. We've got a lot of things coming up, and I think this is what's going to give us the edge to be able to pull off what we want to without spending more money than we need to. We get stuff in the long run. I suppose one of the drawbacks to the tractor is that I mean, it's a smaller tractor. It's a 33 horsepower, and the backhoe isn't huge. It's got a decent reach. It'll dig the trenches that I need to trench. It'll dig the septic field when I need to get around to doing that. The bucket, it holds a fair amount of dirt, so I can move stuff with it fairly easily, but it's not huge. The ones that we would rent when we were doing our initial excavation last year was a lot bigger. We could get a lot more done in one afternoon with that machine than I can with this. But the advantage of having this thing on site and being able to do things at my leisure, oh, I've got an hour here that I can go play around on the tractor and dig a stump or move some dirt or whatever needs to be done, it outweighs the advantage of being able to get more done in one fell swoop with the rental machine. And then on top of that, that's just the digging aspect of it and the landscaping and all that. But as I've noted in previous videos, we had those snow scoops that we were using to do the whole driveway, our entire parking area, all the way down the driveway. And it was a several-hour process just to get barely big enough to get the car out. And so we included several implements in the tractor, one of which is the snow plow. And I think that was one of the big things that was Tara's motivation after doing multiple snow scooping with those scoops from last winter. She realized that we needed a mechanical means by which we can remove the snow. And don't fret, snow scoops, you will still be in use. There is plenty to be done close up to the house when that happens, and we can put some trails around. But this was included in the initial financing. It's a 6-foot blade, and yeah, so I'm actually kind of looking forward to next winter to be able to play with that and see how easy it is. But the other implements that we got were primarily because of other things around the property. We got a box blade, which has those scrapers on it. You can see those teeth on the left-hand side, and that you can adjust those to various depths. It allows you to drag this thing behind the tractor, and it'll dig up the driveway or rough terrain, allowing you to create a trail or a path or just general leveling and stuff like that. It's got blades angled both forward and backwards, so that if you're moving forward, that'll capture it in the box, which helps level it, and then you can utilize the back one almost like a little dozer blade. Drawback is you have to turn around in order to do it, but to see what you're doing. But I'm excited to do that. You saw some of the ruts in the pictures, and so that's an immediate thing. I'll actually probably switch out the backhoe here in the next day or two just to redo the driveway, or at least get started on the driveway. And then the other implement is this creature right here, which is a PTO driven chipper. And we have 45 acres, of which a lot of the trees need to be limbed up at least 8 to 10 feet to reduce the fire load. And we're going to have a lot of branches, and I don't like having branches piled up all summer long waiting for the winter to roll around to when I can burn them. So, and with the amount of dirt we're going to need to move and hillsides that we're going to be creating and things like that, in order to keep the mud down, I think the chips will be a benefit. So it'll cover the trails, it'll cover the hillsides, and it'll take care of the branches as we create them, as opposed to waiting and leaving a fire hazard all summer long waiting for winter to be able to burn. I mean, that doesn't mean we won't have burn piles, because the mistletoe branches won't be fed into that very easily. But that's another thing I'm excited to use. That's probably not going to be used for the next couple weeks though, just because I've got priorities and other things I need to do. But that being said, that was our surprise. I've already started playing around with it. You can see that the wheels are dirty and the bucket was dirty and everything. I started digging over in that area over there and pushed some stumps down, leveled it out, crated it so that we could get down in there. That whole area is going to be fairly level. That dip is going to scoop over towards those 3 trees in the center. And so I've got a fair amount of dirt to move and leveling to happen, but just with what little I've done right now, it gives it a much more finished texture. We've got tons of dirt. There's a huge pile over there behind the tractor. And then we got that whole hillside there that's ultimately going to be moved 1 bucket at a time, all the way where I need it. So anyways, that is our new toy, and I am excited to play with it. So time to get some work done.